click. Mic check. Yeah. Region Weekly. DePIN the nation. Break it down simple. Demystify the system. Demystify DePIN. Tap and tune in.
Guys, so every Thursday we have the Demystifying DePIN show. And they always play music on the way in, and then they play music on the way out. And yesterday they put this song up, and I'm listening to it. I'm like, damn, this thing kind of slaps. And it was one of the community members made this song for the show. Like, listen to this. It's pretty good.
Yeah. Region Weekly. DePIN the nation. Break it down simple. Demystify the system. Demystify DePIN. Tap and tune in. Noise online. Yeah, the whole net moving. Bills get passed. Yeah, we track that movement.
He was talking about the lyrics. He talks about macro, CPI. I'm like, bro, that's crazy. So huge shout out, by the way. Huge shout out. Give this guy a follow, man. Piff's Peak. Give him a follow. This is where he does his music off this account here. So Peak first. But yeah, man, I was like, that's kind of hard. I was actually at the gym this morning, and I was talking to this girl at the gym. She's like, what are you listening to? And I was like, actually, funny story. I was like, I host X Spaces throughout the week, and one of the community members made this song. And so I let her listen to it. She's like, this is actually really good. And I was like, I know. Right? Like, kind of crazy. Oh, man. How about these markets? Oh. It's Friday, though. At least we're having a little bit of a bounce back. How are we doing here? There we go. A little bit better. At least we're bouncing back a little bit. I'm going to talk about some of the macro stuff, some of the consumer sentiment reports that came in today. Talk a little bit about the crypto stuff, what happened yesterday. And then I'm going to talk more about DePIN today than I have recently. Obviously had the DePIN happy hour last night. And guys, it is a beautiful Friday. It's a little cold in Chicago, but we are alive and well. You so love it. Yeah, this song goes hard, right? I was like, damn. It's like listening at the gym. Oh, brother. Well, let's talk a little bit. Oh, by the way, also at the end, I'm going to show you a couple plays that I'm in right now. Do y'all remember the virtuals move last year where people made like ridiculous money on the virtuals ecosystem? I think there could be a couple of really interesting plays right now that I positioned into. So I'm going to cover those as well. Something to at least keep an eye on with the AI agent scene. Because I think we could have some runners. How about that? Let's talk about some of the survey data that came in today. Decent news. So University of Michigan does these consumer sentiment indexes. And it says consumer sentiment index, in this case, rose slightly to 57.3. It's the third consecutive monthly increase. So that's good news. That means people are feeling better about the economy, although the context matters, right? So while it did beat expectations, basically just said people that have stocks and assets have been kind of happy. I mean, it makes sense, right? For the most part, things are hitting new all-time highs. We've obviously, we see things crash. We're talking stock market, not crypto here, because us in crypto, we're like, no, we've been wrecked for like a year. Stock market, people are generally pretty happy. The people that don't have assets, of course, are not happy. That a lot of people struggling out there. So that goes into those details there. If you look at the chart, this is also important to look at. I mean, we're rising. We were pretty bad on consumer sentiment back in November. And while we are on the rise, we are well below where we've been historically. So if you look at the time, oh, man, yeah. Sentiment was pretty damn good back in before COVID. And then COVID was like, nah, not going to be good anymore. And now we are not looking great. But inflation, they also do polls on that. The expectations for year-ahead inflation amongst people that were surveyed are down. So people were expecting 4%. Now it's 3.5%. Look, I think a lot of this was that when the tariffs went into place, all these economists and everyone were saying like, oh, we're going to have like 10% inflation, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, that shit didn't happen, dude. Like, come on. We knew that. I talked about it on my live streams all last year. I was like, we know what happened in Trump's first presidency. Like he put 20% tariff on China. There was MIT came out with a study. It's like a 0.7% one-time increase to consumers. I think we're seeing something similar here. Now, what remains to be seen is how many of these companies ate the tariffs to start with, because frankly, they couldn't raise prices because of the economy and people weren't going to spend that money. I'm curious to see how much that they actually start passing on. But as of right now, it doesn't look like it's going to be crazy. I mean, this is the Trueflation Index, so it's not the CPI that the BLS reports on, but 0.99%. They use a lot more real-time metrics as opposed to like old survey data that the BLS uses. That's the most archaic stuff in the world. Like, interestingly, actually responded to one of Trueflation's posts, and they were like, "Hey, we should get our CEO on with you guys." I'm like, "Let's do it. Love to interview that guy." So this is, I mean, it's pretty cool. Like Trueflation pulls a lot of real-time metrics. It tends to lead the way, months in advance to what we see in BLS. And we do start to see inflation come down like that on the government numbers, man, you better believe we're going to be cutting rates. Well, some other news. This is out of the Fed. This guy, what's his name? This guy, Jefferson, was talking about the job market. We've seen a lot of job numbers come in recently that haven't been pretty. Let's be real. But I thought it was interesting. He gave some additional context on his sentiment. He said the labor market was roughly in balance. Unemployment rate is still low at 4.4%. Job growth has been slow, but a lot of the tepid expansion is because we've been deporting a lot of people. So a lot of job vacancies are opening up. People are moving into those jobs, but we're not seeing overall growth because of that. He said, "I see the overall labor market is roughly in balance with low hiring, low firing environment prevailing. This less dynamic labor market, the downside risks to unemployment remain, but baseline is for unemployment to hold approximately steady throughout this year." That would be really good. One of the concerns, obviously, is if employment starts, really looking bad. We're seeing a lot of reports about layoffs that doesn't seem to be showing in the numbers yet. But if we start to see things really slip, the concern is that we could see major crashes in the markets and run into this recession that everyone's been talking about for years. We don't want that. 2025, we were hoping to have like crazy gains in crypto, obviously. I mean, I don't want to dwell on everything that took place, but October 10th obviously was really bad and everything else went nuts. So we're like, hey, 2026 needs to be our catch-up year. We don't want a recession to come in and ruin the party. But he does go to say here that it is an argument for holding off on further rate cuts. And that's one thing that everyone's paying attention to. How many rate cuts are we going to have this year? We just had our January meeting. There were no cuts there. And right now, Polymarket is saying that it's most likely scenario right now. And there's a big split here, guys. 3 rate cuts. There's 27% leading the way, 2 at 26%. Even if you look at 4, 11%. So it's scattered. No one really knows what to expect. So markets are kind of split on this. Of course, keep in mind, we have 2 more meetings with Jerome Powell. And then, now let's look at the calendar here. 2 more meetings with Mr. Jerome Powell, March and April. So we don't have one this month. There's 8 meetings a year where they would announce that they're going to cut or raise rates. The next 5 will be under the new Fed chair. And who might that be? Well, we thought it was Warsh. You guys, it's hard to believe it's only been a week. That was like last Friday morning when Trump came out and said, Warsh is the next Fed chair. And I don't know if you all saw this, but of course I tweeted this before he announced it because I've covered this quite a bit. It said, if Warsh is the pick, rip, rest in peace to your crypto bags. Holy shit, was that true? It's like, I didn't expect it to happen that drastically, that quickly. Marcus did not like that choice at all. I've covered this on a couple of episodes, but man, markets hated that pick. There's a little drama all around all of this. And actually, it's going back. I'm in one of my chats, and I said this that night, and I thought this was crazy. I was like, super disappointing. I think Warsh is good for the dollar long term. That's why DXY was going up. But I don't see it being good for markets short term. An understatement. Shocked that Trump would go this route in a midterm year. But I also said I think it could be a smokescreen to see what the market's reaction is, and hopefully he changes his course here. And I said Judy Shelton may be worth a bet at 2%. This is on Thursday night. I said this. It's like back at St. Louis visiting family. Oh, here we go. So here's what I sent here. And lo and behold, we got a little drama, guys. I don't think that this is a done deal, actually. So Trump came out and messaged on X that he was choosing Warsh, but for the nomination to be official, it's got to go to the Senate. And that has not happened yet. And you search Judy Shelton on the X timeline, man, there's people all over the place talking about how they think Trump's going to change his mind and go with Shelton. If you look, Mr. Bassett was, talking the other day. Look behind him. That's Judy Shelton right there. Everyone's like, what? What's she doing back there? Like, where's Warsh and all this? Guys, we haven't heard from Warsh at all since this nomination a week ago. Like, dude's like radio silent. And it's making me wonder, tinfoil hat a little bit. Like, what could this mean? What could this mean? Here they are talking about rumors that China may be backing digital assets by gold. No shit. I've been talking about that forever. Actually, guys, if you haven't watched this, put this out like over a year ago, year and a half ago. I talk about that. China and the BRICS countries are creating a currency backed by gold in their currencies. Now we know it's called the unit. It's happening. But going to poly market here, G Shelton at 2%. Look at the volume on this, though. Warsh again was like named at 32 million, $56 million on Judy Shelton. If you look at Kalshi, it's actually substantially different. 5% on Judy Shelton right now. So there's somebody out there. There's a lot of people out there that think this whole move with Warsh is not going to stick. And that was kind of my thesis, was like, hey, maybe he's just testing the markets here. Maybe it's a smokescreen. The other thing that was happening at this point, of course, was that precious metals were going ballistic. Guys, this is just a week ago, if you remember. Fortunately, I'd played, the silver long in one of my IRAs. But the dollar was starting to look, things were looking a little bit dire for the dollar. People were sort of freak out about gold and silver in their run. And there is some speculation that some of the banks were really hurting, had some exposure to some shorts on silver, and they were about to get wrecked. So this announcement of Warsh ended that run. In hindsight, man, that was the easiest short in the world, because DXY, he's more of a hawk. He's not all about the spending. He doesn't like QE. He wants to reduce the Fed balance sheet. He wants to rein in our aggressive spending. That's all good for the dollar strength, right? So as DXY goes up, it kind of eliminates that whole run on gold and silver, because they're trying to get away from the US dollar. So I think that people, we are in such euphoria on gold and silver about a week ago. I think people were looking for a reason to sell, and that certainly gave them a reason. Now the question is Warsh going to end up being the Fed chair or not? So let's see how this plays out. But Judy Shelton, a dark horse candidate. There's still people saying that Rick Reeder might be the guy. Obviously, Waller was my guy, but man, didn't end up happening. What a bummer that was. And how about Warsh just coming in and like ruining our bags? God, he hasn't even said anything, and everyone hates him. He hasn't said a word since he was nominated. Everyone hates that guy. Oh, it sucks. All right. Want to talk about a couple of things, and that silver move in particular I was talking about. Let's see here. So is my channel blacklisted? I don't know. Why do you say that? Is it? Am I not coming up on YouTube? Let me know why you asked that. I'm curious about that. I did have a video calling out Binance for their shenanigans on October 10th. I wonder if that maybe got me out of the algorithm. I don't know. Okay, so I want to call something out on why, on Brandon Hong has been the best trader I've come across over the last year. He's crushed on every call. So I'm going to go through kind of his thesis on silver, and then I'll show you Bitcoin and why I was short on Bitcoin going into that move yesterday. Oh, I appreciate that. I don't know, man. Like, okay, so I'll come back to this. So crypto in general has been way down. Like retail's been absent. And I was watching a video of this guy that he works with a lot of the crypto YouTubers, like with big accounts. And he said not only are their views way down, but they're losing subscribers. Like they're negative month to month. He's like, for that to happen, super rare. That means that people are like literally angry and they're unsubscribing. Because normally people don't unsubscribe, they stop watching. So I think right now there's like everyone's pissed off because like all of the alts got absolutely destroyed after Trump's inauguration. But I appreciate that. Those are very kind words. Let's get those views up. If you could like the video, that helps, I think. Okay, so silver. This was a generational breakout and one that Brandon called out, and he's not the only one. Yeah, you're probably right. I probably should. I mean, I cover more than just DePIN, obviously, on my live streams, but maybe the name is too niche. No one knows what DePIN is. That's true. I think they will. We're gonna talk more about that in a minute. But yeah, it's a good point. Hello. All right. So Brandon's trade technique, and this is something that I've been leveraging now soon, or it have been really, but I'm going to start leveraging a lot more. Is he didn't overcomplicate it. A lot of people look at like RSI and oversold levels, and they look at different 20 different trends on the charts, and he basically just looks for market structure. Are we an uptrend or a downtrend, and key levels. And is there a narrative with those key levels that you can pay attention to? And is there a breakout or a breakdown at those key levels? And then basically going long or short there and having an invalidation if the breakout doesn't happen so that you cut your losses. So in this case, silver was like the most obvious one in the freaking world, man. Like this was a multi-decade level of resistance. So we hit it here. And then obviously more recently over here. And I'll tell you what, the first time it failed. So it did go above. There we go. So it did go above the first time and then it retraced back down. So there's potential like having a stop loss there to minimize your losses. Maybe it would have gotten you out of that trade, but then you could have re-entered it right here. But this is exactly like his. Oh, come on, man. Anyway, that's exactly like what he looks for is these key levels. Let me show you one on Bitcoin and the reason why I shorted yesterday. But this thing obviously broke up like crazy. I mean, this is a generational trade. Fortunately, I did get in on one of my retirement accounts and on a 2x silver fund. And I cashed out, I thought like, this feels so toppy, man. I was taking profits, but I was like, I got out. Obviously the Warsh announcement would have been the perfect time to freaking short, man. Like, I think people were looking for a reason to sell off here. Things were getting so crazy. And we saw such a big sell off. Like it would have been so obvious. But looking at Bitcoin, so Brandon shorted this, once we broke back below 94,000 here. But the big level really is this key level right like 70, it's like 74 to 76 in that range. And here's why. So you look here, this was the original breakout on Trump's on election night, right? When Trump won, we broke this level and turned it into support and went into this crazy uptrend. We tested that same level again when the tariff announcement happened in last April. So that's already twice been a huge level, to do with the Trump presidency over. And this is a long-term time frame trend. So we obviously started coming back down and we tested this again. And it was right at that level when we broke below that, when I put in some pretty sizable shorts, because that was a key level to break. And then obviously we saw that huge cascade down from there. So that just a couple of examples. Another thing you can do to kind of remove bias is invert the chart, because a lot of times I think all of us are more biased to be long. Like we want charts to go up. So if you want to remove your bias and you have a harder time seeing these trends when it's a downtrend, invert it. And you can see here, like if this is something that we saw, this level had broken down, had been tested, now we're breaking out the other direction, like this would be so bullish. Like you would think that this chart is going to the moon. And that's a little scary actually when you look at this chart, because this is obviously inverted now. Like I don't think we're out of the woods yet, I'll say. We saw a big relief rally today. It's great to see, but I'm not convinced that we're going back up, man. Hey, what's up? Solana Dev Department. We are early. It'll be big. You know what? I think it is going to be really big, and I'm so excited about that. Actually, I'm going to cover some comments from Kyle Samani here in the show about DePIN. So I think that the time is coming. Just taking a little bit longer than I originally expected. We had a little taste in 2024, right? But it's all right, man. It's all right. It's going to happen. And I think some of these projects we're covering go freaking bananas. I'm so excited. So, but this is, Bitcoin. So looking at this, like, looks like this thing could continue going. And of course, this is inverted. So we have to put it back. I mean, this looks ugly, and we're in unprecedented territory. Like in the past, in the bear market, we've seen, Bitcoin go down and tag the all-time high from the prior market cycle, which would have been about $69,000. We broke well below that yesterday. So I would, though, I'll tell you what, if we break back above this key level and have some support there, I would definitely go long again. So we'll see. We shall see. A couple of things that happened though, and this is really, not fantastic. We saw a Bitcoin whale, one of the Satoshi whales, sold close to $1 billion, or they moved $1 billion in one transfer. So that's obviously not a good sign. We saw this news come out this morning. This BitThumb, I guess they had fat thumbs. They accidentally sent 2,000 Bitcoin. So there's like a token there sending out for like some airdrop or something. And they say they accidentally sent out 2,000 Bitcoin and everyone just sold it right away. So that was more selling that hit the market. And then obviously the ETFs have been really abysmal, man. And I'll say, I talk about it a lot, but look at all this selling. This is net selling on these ETFs. Look when it started. We had the all-time high on October 6th. And then sure enough, October 10th. So that, remember that's when, Trump announced the China tariffs, and that's when Binance had their pricing issue. And we had that big, liquidation event. We had that huge sell-off, biggest liquidation event in history. Shit broke. We had a couple of relief rallies, but just look at this. Look at these outflows ever since then. It's been so disgusting. So, interesting. No money was lost on BitThumb. How? That's what I want to know. If they sent all that Bitcoin out, I want to know how, if people sold it, how did they not lose money? I'll have to read more into that. That seems surprising to me. Maybe they just created more paper Bitcoin on their books. I don't know. There's a lot of talk about that too. How people have like all these like perps, and now you have the ETFs and all this, and they they have, for every Bitcoin, they're saying that there's like 6 Bitcoin for every Bitcoin, like in all these contracts and all this leverage and everything. So I thought that's kind of interesting. Oh, it's just a ledger mistake. So they didn't actually transfer it on chain to all these people. Okay, that's good. So just, I guess, on paper, they showed that it had been transferred, but didn't happen on chain. Well, that's good news. But, while we were all sulking and everyone was watching the market bleed out, guess who really had it bad? I need to reshare this because I lost my audio. Well, let's see. Oops. Let me share this again. Boom. Mr. Charles Hoskinson. He took a bath.
Say, Charles, you're rich. You can ride it out. I've lost more money than anyone listening to this. Over $3 billion now.
Oh.
It'd have been real easy to cash out. Just walk away. And do you think I honestly care if I lose it all? Do you think I'm doing this for money? You're pretty mistaken if you do. There's a reason I'm not in the Epstein files. There's a reason I didn't get rolled up in FTX. There's a reason why when all these scandals seem to happen, my name doesn't seem to be mentioned in them.
Shots fired, and fair. I mean, his name really hasn't been mentioned in that stuff. You've got a lot of stuff around CZ. Even Justin Sun has some drama right now with his ex-girlfriend talking about him scamming. I'm not necessarily a big fan of Cardano. I'll say that much. But fair point. He hasn't been caught up in any of these scandals. And $3 billion. Oh, my God, that sucks. You know, I mean, it'd be nice to have $3 billion to lose, I guess. But I imagine he has some money set aside for a rainy day. So I can't imagine he's like broke. But it's still a big hit nonetheless. I saw somebody make a mention here about the Clarity Act. Where was that? Boom. Once the Clarity Act's done, do I think we see a big run at the end of 2026? Assuming it gets done, it needs to get done. That's the big question here. And actually, I have an update on that. So let's play this.
Senator Cynthia Lamis, she is the chairwoman of the subcommittee on digital assets. Senator, it's wonderful to have you this morning. Thanks very much for being here. First things first, can you give us an update on when you expect this legislation to happen? You lost a big window, right, after Brian Armstrong from Coinbase complained about the markup.
Well, good morning, Maria. We did lose that window, but Senator Thune, the majority leader, has assured us that even though now we're going to have to defer into the spring, that he will reserve time on the Senate schedule, which is very hard to get, for later this spring. We had scheduled a markup in the Banking Committee, but the day before we had to pull it off the agenda, not because just of what Coinbase had said about it, but because there was other concern. And you just mentioned one of the big ones, and that is the banks and some of the credit unions have some members of the committee concerned that they will lose deposits.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us.
So a couple things to unwrap there. Yes. I mean, that's one of the big things is that the banks don't want stablecoin issuers to offer yield on stablecoins. I mean, it'd be a competition for them. So the banks, I mean, you put money in the bank, they lend it out, they buy treasuries, they get yield. So let's say they're getting like 5% of your money. They give you like, I don't know, 0.5% if you're freaking lucky in some of these banks. So they're pocketing that spread. Their concern is of all of a sudden stablecoin issuers like Circle can offer, you know, if they're buying a treasury, say a treasury bill like 3.5%, 4%, and they only want to take 1% on that spread and give you a better yield than your bank. The banks are worried that people are going to pull their money out of the bank and instead park it with these stablecoin issuers, and they don't want competition. Brian Armstrong's position is like, that's bullshit. These banks should be paying more yield. They're pocketing. It's criminal how much they're pocketing on the spread. If they don't want competition, then they should raise the yield they're willing to pay. How about that, right? So that's the big fight that's going on right now. Banks are being greedy. Not shocking. The other side of this, though, that she doesn't mention is that the Dems are pushing really hard for high-ranking officials not to be able to trade crypto. And Trump does not seem like he's on board with that. So we'll see. We'll see how this plays out. But as she said here, it's already been pushed out till spring. She said that they're going to hold time for us. You know, the longer this gets pushed out, the less and less likely it gets, guys. That's the concerning part. And to me, even Scott Bessent recently said, like, hey, everything hinges on this. This whole industry hinges on this getting done. And I agree for a couple of reasons. I mean, this Clarity Act is something they've been working on for years, and obviously, Biden administration was trying to shut crypto down. This is like one positive thing that could come from, Trump for crypto, I'd say, if they can get it done. But, I think after October 10th, a lot of trust was broken in crypto, man. Like the liquidity obviously it's horrible now. It's rumored that half the market makers got wiped out on October 10th. But, for TradFi and for these other, smarter investors, like why would they leave their TradFi investments and come into crypto if a pricing glitch on Binance can wipe out the entire market? Like the risk reward's not worth it for someone coming in right now and they see what's going on in the space. You see stocks doing 10Xs now. It's not an attractive asset class like it once was until they can get that stuff, cleaned up. But there's been no accountability for October 10th. In fact, CZ got pardoned by Trump. So I don't blame people for being skittish about getting into crypto right now. So I think the trust needs to be rebuilt on top of liquidity. I think the Clarity Act can be a big part of that, but it's really critical to get that thing done. Now, if we look at the odds, right now it's a 53% chance that this thing gets done before 2027. And I agree. This thing, if it doesn't get done, it's going to be under the next presidency. And if this thing swings, next presidency, let's say the next election swings left. I mean, we look at what happened in the last market cycle, with the Dems in charge. They were very anti-crypto. Will they be again? I don't know. We still had a nice bull run, but that wasn't because of regulation. That was because they printed trillions of dollars because of COVID, right? It was very much retail driven. Retail has been nowhere to be found ever since Trump launched his meme coins, and it's been institutionally driven. So, I think it really is going to hurt if we can't get this thing done. So it's important, y'all. And that's something we got to keep an eye on. And, I think in the interim, we have to be a little bit patient here. Now, he did say here, bull run may be delayed or compressed until Clarity Act. Network Joe thinks we saw the bull run. I think we did see a bull run, guys. I mean, not like what we're used to seeing, not like what we saw in 2020, 2021, but in the COVID market cycle, we saw trillions of dollars printed. We saw like $2,000 checks going out to everyone. No one could go out and do anything. They're sitting at home being degenerate gamblers. Like there's way less tokens too. So everything just went crazy. I don't think it's realistic to expect that. Now, 2024, we saw, HiMepper did a 34x, right? Nosana, I'd put videos on that, did a 350x. We saw Demo do a 15x. We saw things. It just wasn't what we were hoping for and what we were expecting. Pump Fun extracted a lot of money, guys, like $1 billion from retail. So retail was there in 2024, but it wasn't as easy as the last market cycle. And it's not going to ever be as easy again. That's the hard fact. Like we need to accept that every market cycle is going to get more difficult. There's going to be more competition. As we get more regulation, I think that some of the degeneracy we've seen in the past might not be there. And there's just way more tokens. There's something like 16 million tokens. The last market cycle was, less than 1% of that, I believe. So I still think there's a lot of money to be made in this space, but you're going to have to actually do research and find the right plays. Like it's not just a shotgun approach that everything's just going to go crazy, in my opinion. We might see like rotations, right? So I think, retail will come back. Yeah, retail will come back, in my opinion. But a lot of people have gotten burnt. I guess on the bright side, like only 5% of people are, have invested in alts. So there's still a lot of people that can come into the space. But I think things need to change for us to be taken seriously. And I do think it's going to get harder and harder over time. Like, I don't think it's going to get easier, guys. You can look at it and be like, oh, this money's coming in. That's great. But the days of 2020 and 2021, I don't think we'll see a repeat of that. But as I mentioned, in 2024, man, we had some huge runners. Like, guys, some of the projects, a lot of them that I covered went ballistic. Now, the other hard part though, is making sure to take profits. Like, it's a new market. It's nascent. There's market inefficiencies. Times like this, where we have like the most downside negativity ever, it's impossible to really time the bottom unless you get lucky. But DCAing when prices are really, really down, like I did in 2022 and 2023, that's how people make millions of dollars, guys. I mean, full stop. Nosana, from when I put that video out it's like the end of October, 50x in like 4 or 5 months. You put that into perspective, you'd put 10 grand in there. That's, $3.5 million. Like, that's the type of opportunity that's still available here, but you've got to play the volatility a bit, and you don't want to catch a falling knife. But I would say, like, DCAing when the markets are down is a good way to go, but being patient, like, this shit might not turn around immediately. To Joe's point, I think we did see a bull run. If we follow the 4-year market cycle, like we have in the past, then the bottom of this bear market, if we are in a bear market, would be in October of this year. And then we would be into the new market cycle and an uptrend for several years. That said, this, that crash, the FTX crash happened in that October. And that's what, caused the final washout that kind of was the floor. We've kind of had that happen a little bit earlier in this market cycle, right? So I don't know that we're going to just, wait till October to bottom. It could happen sooner, I think, based on the amount of, money we've seen flow out of the space. I think it could have been expedited a bit based on the washouts. And I'm not saying the bottom's in either, guys. Like, my base case is that we're going lower at this point. I think we have a relief bounce today, but I do think that you can argue that we're in a bear market. The market cycle's over, sure. But I do think at some point this year, we'll see things shift back in the other direction. And I think some of these DePIN players are going to do quite well. And that's the next thing I want to talk about. Times like this is where we make millions. Never easier fun. That's true. A big part of it is putting in the right plays. The other big, overly greedy and taking money off the table and being patient, not trying to over rotate. I did very well in 2024, but certainly could have done a lot better if I hadn't over rotated and given some of that back. But it is what it is. Like, you live and you learn. But I feel so so ready moving forward. Like, last year, read like 10 macro books. Learn how to long and short the market, and using Brandon's model, which is very much a patience game, waiting for the right setups, not trying to trade every day. Like, you might go months without having a good setup, but capitalizing on those times where it's really, really good trading conditions. And just my thesis on the DePIN projects I'm invested in. Like, I did very well in choosing the right ones last market cycle, I have to say. Helium is guaranteed to go up. We're going to talk about helium, actually. So let's talk about DePIN. I thought this is interesting. This was from, it was a Bitwise to financial advisors, and they put out a survey on the themes or strategies they're interested in for financial advisors. And you notice DePIN's in there at 8%. I was kind of shocked to see that DePIN made the list here. So super interesting. The other thing, I don't know if y'all saw, Kyle Samani announced that he is stepping down from his role at Multicoin. So one of the things he said, and this is actually a tweet I found, he deleted it. We still have it. This is one of his replies to a thread. He said, "Crypto is just fundamentally not as interesting as crypto enthusiasts wanted, myself included. I once believed in Web3 vision, dApps. I don't know anymore." Sounds like Joe. Joe's like, "I don't believe in any of this at all, ever again." But I think it's a valid point, right? And a lot of people that are in this space for a long time, you get jaded because you see a lot of bullshit, man. You see a lot of people get washed out. You see a lot of grifters. It's hard not to. But he said, once believed in it, I don't anymore. Blockchains or asset ledgers will reshape finance, but not much more than that. DePIN is the other notable area. Crypto is going higher, but all the investing questions have been answered other than on-chain confidentiality. So privacy, I think is going to be a big thing. DePIN, though, he called that out specifically, and I believe that is true. Now, that doesn't mean all DePIN projects are going to do well, guys. Like that, in fact, I'd say quite the opposite. I think a lot of these older ones have a very tough hill to climb. They, as a lot of people have recently been saying, things like Helium, right? They stepped on a lot of landmines for us on the way, made a lot of mistakes and paving the way for everyone else. Speaking of Helium, by the way, Samir, he also posted this. EV3 team, our outstanding partners, they just announced that they raised $61.74 million for an early stage venture fund, and they are very heavily focused on DePIN. So we saw a lot of money flying into DePIN towards the end of last year. We're seeing a huge focus still. And Solana, I was actually talking to a pretty respected project founder about this, and he feels like Solana needs DePIN to make it. Like if they really want to make it, they have to have DePIN succeed. And they've even launched like a DePIN specific part of their website. So I think a lot of people, as we move out of the BS, the frothiness, I think a lot of that's going to get washed out. And I think there's probably a lot of projects in DePIN and all over crypto, especially some of these like L1s from the last market cycle that haven't done shit, that just got a bunch of VC funds and basically pumped a token. I guarantee a lot of those are in their last legs, and this washout, they're hoping for another bull run to prop their token up and cash out. It just didn't work out the way that they wanted. I think there's going to be a lot of projects that are announcing they're shutting down. We're already starting to see it. And I think a lot of those are coming. I think I hate to say this, but I think it's good for the space. Having L1s that get zero usage with $2 billion market caps is asinine. Okay. That needs to stop. That way funds can focus on the things that actually matter, the true builders. The more of that, the better, in my opinion. But I think it could get ugly before we get there. Speaking of Helium, though, they're their first profitable quarter ever for Helium on a protocol level. That's a big deal, guys. Profitability is not something you hear about in crypto, right? So the fact that they are profitable, that means they're bringing in more revenue than their burn rate. That's a big deal. Caspa got shut down, right? There's a bunch, man. There's a couple of DePIN ones, the ones that I never covered that got shut down recently. Helium price though, not that good. Although today it's bouncing 20 or 14% over the last 24 hours. But I thought this was interesting. If you look at, and this is the DePIN chart, right, that we've seen in the past. You think Swee's going under? Huh. I wouldn't be. That's crazy. That would shock a lot of people. But I don't know. I don't have any investment in Sui. So this is the chart. And this is the problem that we've seen with DePIN, right? Is like the big run up in the bull run and then boom, die out. And then a couple of runs up, but it never goes back to its all-time high. And this is basically a crypto chart, right? And you'll notice that all of these peaks are when the greed hits 85 to 90. Okay. And then it just kind of fizzles out. And that's what we've seen here. So with Helium, they finally found product market fit, but I think for them, the big problem is too much dilution early. While they're stepping on those landmines, while they're figuring stuff out, they wasted too many tokens on IoT, especially in the early stages. Like so many tokens went out early on. And now that's like all sell pressure they have to overcome and find longer term minded holders to buy those tokens. And I think that they're fighting this battle. So while they found product market fit, I think it took a little bit too long and they had too much dilution early. That's not to say they can't turn it around. The fact they're profitable is huge. That means that they can continue going. They don't have to worry about runway necessarily at this point. The question is like, how long is it going to take them to overcome all that sell pressure? for the token to start being reflected by the fundamentals? That's the question no one has an answer to. Now, certainly, as the market rebounds and sentiment improves, I think you'll have a bounce off sentiment alone. But what I'm looking for is, okay, when do the fundamentals shine through? And you can actually see this very clearly, by the way, over the last year. If you remember, we saw a little bit of a bounce. It was like right around here when they announced that they were doing open market buys. So we moved up and things were like, hey, look at this. We're like finding some support of the token. This is great. And then October 10th happened and then boom, right? We started to recover a little bit. And then that's when, we had a big crash. We had a little bit of a recovery. And I think just like most of crypto, right? People were like trying to be optimistic. And then sure enough, everything just started dropping out as we realized the true extent of what happened on October 10th. And then, of course, right here is where Amir messaged that they were no longer doing the extra open market buys and burns. And you can see what happened to the chart since then. So communication on that was terrible. Absolutely terrible. And you can see exactly that reflected in the price of the token in the charts. So I will say, big deal that they're profitable. That means that they can keep this thing going. They have the runway to keep going. So, if you have a long-term mindset, I think Helium is an interesting buy here. I mean, 158 million, that's a lot lower than it's been in a long time. So I think there is possibility for upward price action from here. I remember it's been a little quiet recently, haven't they? Obviously sentiment's been dead in crypto, but Ariel and them, I mean, they're pushing out updates. It makes me wonder how much they're focusing on, business fleets versus crypto. But guys, for all the people that are hating so much, by the way, on, oh, he's just going to go after fleets and blah, 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 blah. This is why, guys, like, these are the most brutal market conditions we've ever had. Now, is part of the reason the token price is down so much their fault? I would say they made some missteps for sure. But even if they had done things really well, I think the token price would still be way down because the market is just effed, right? It's so cooked right now. So if they hadn't started to try to recruit business fleets to go out and collect data, guys, I mean, I don't know. There's not that many crypto native people right now that are like excited to go out there and map for Hive Mapper. Let's be real. That's why they hedged, for this exact situation. So I think it's funny that everyone was like hating so much on them going that route, but like, this is why they did it, I think they're still shipping. Now the question is, and someone said this, someone asked that they're going to go out of business. Nobody's mapping anymore. Well, I think on one end, they do have businesses out there mapping. I don't know to what extent. I heard through the grapevine that they have a big customer that they're working on closing. I don't know. Yeah. So again, you're focused on the crypto native people. They started hedging a long time ago for, in case we ran into market conditions like this. So, I don't know what their situation is financially. I really don't. I don't have access to their books. I don't know what their runway looks like. I have no idea. But I will say this much: for the first time in a long time, looking at this, like $23 million market cap actually doesn't look bad. I mean, they got up to over a $350 million market cap in 2024 when there's like no token dilution. That's why the token went up so much. But you're looking at this now, like 23 million actually doesn't look bad, especially when you consider that all their unlocks are kind of out of the way. The only thing left is rewards, token rewards for mappers. I think that's the remaining unlocks coming. That's going to take place over a very long period of time. So I don't know. But for me, there's other plays, full transparency, I'd rather invest in right now if I was going to be buying a token. But I do think there actually is upside potentially here from the current market cap because it's down so damn much. I don't think we're ever getting back to all-time highs again. Like, that's crazy. I mean, think about that. If we wanted to get back to an all-time high, the math on this is crazy. So what were we at? 0.34? I actually did sell some at that point. That's 82x from here. That'd be $1.8 billion market cap. Yeah, I don't think we're getting there, guys. I don't think we're getting back to 34 cents. Good times. It was good times. Now, that's not to say there's no upside potentially, though, either, right? I mean, you could see if the market does rebound in a big way. HiveMapper's still one of the biggest names in DePIN. They've got HiveMapper's $1 billion company if run right. I don't know about that. Maybe. Either way, though, like let's say it gets to 125, $150 million market cap. I mean, that's a 5 or 6x. So again, I think there's still upside, guys. You know, I know the last year has been terrible, but 2024, I mean, this thing pumped without any customers yet, pumped to like 350 million. So you have to remember what's possible when market conditions are better. But I would rather be investing in myself in newer projects that aren't just going to be like need sentiment. I mean, that's just it. Now, if you're out there mapping, like I actually had one of my old drivers text me earlier, and he ended up buying a bunch of his own bees. He was asking me like, "What do you think?" And he's like, "Should I like keep mapping?" I was like, "I don't know, man. Like, do you have Wi-Fi? Do you have LTE?" He's like, "LTE." I'm like, I mean, are you making money? Are you running at a loss after your LTE plan? Or are you in the positive? He's like, I'm in the positive. I'm like, well, then fucking just keep it in your window. Like, I don't know. Why not? If you're more than covering your costs, right? And right now we're at the most oversold alts have ever been in history. You know, not to say it can't go lower, but like shit, man, we're at 23 million market cap, guys. Like there's not a ton of downside at this point. Like the risk reward looks pretty good for the first time in a while. You know, I didn't feel that way when we were at 75 million. At 23 million, I kind of feel that way. So why wouldn't you keep the damn thing in your windshield? Where are you gonna go sell it for $200 on eBay? Like, I don't think that makes sense. So I would keep driving, and with an LTE plan, as long as I'm making more than I'm spending, and then you can cash out the difference if you want, or you can hold and say, hey, I'm going to wait for market conditions to get better. You're driving anyway, so why not? Tell you next new product. Okay. Well, that's what we're going to go through next. Let's talk about this one. Everyone's a sore subject because they've had some big sell-offs. We'll talk more about that. But dude, 375 AI is easily my highest conviction play from a current market cap that I've maybe ever had. I don't know. Like Nosana, I was like, when I saw that 2 million, I was like, this is an easy. I thought 10x. I didn't know if it was gonna be a 350x, but I thought that was an easy one. But this to me seems so. It's a no-brainer. And their sell-offs have not been organic. That's the thing that is really frustrating, and they got to figure out. But they have an exclusive partnership with Outfront Media where they can put these camera setups, 6 cameras with NVIDIA chips on all these billboards out there. You can see these setups. So 6 cameras, NVIDIA chips, processing them at the edge. You can see kind of an example of some of the stuff they're working on. I mean, they're building out new tools, dude. Like this data is going to be incredibly valuable. And Harry has constructed this team. All these guys are freaking chads, man. Harry has had businesses where he sold data, right, for hundreds of millions of dollars. So he's doing it, but like they have a moat. Like, not to say there aren't other companies out there that have cameras out there, but it's a unique data set. They're collecting from a different place. They have 6 cameras with NVIDIA chips. And the thing that people need to realize is in this day of AI right now, most of these models have already scraped all the data on the internet. If you have new real world data sets, you know how valuable that's going to be. So you've got a team that can execute. They have a moat because they're the only ones that are going to have this data set. And now they're just building out tooling on the back end. And Harry's got all the connections. He can get in with all these Fortune 50 companies, man. Like, so that's one end of it. That's where the big money makers are going to be. Although it's going to take a little bit more time for them to get these big deals. The other is their app, and they're launching a new thing with their app. Major update coming. So it's been hexes that they've been scanning. I think that was, it's data that's valuable, sure, but that's like a very small part of what they're doing. The next thing that they're looking to do, and they've teamed up with some really big name brands, guys, going in and checking into stores and scanning and verifying that certain products are on shelves. You'd be shocked how much these companies pay for this. Okay. It's a huge expense for these companies to have people go around and verify products. So one of the people on their team has been an app developer. He's developed apps that have had millions of downloads and generated a ton of revenue. So they have like the perfect team. They're running lean. They got all the runway in the world. And because of some shenanigans with their freaking one of those exchanges, it's sitting at a $2.1 million market cap, fully diluted 9.9. Their tokenomics too. It's not like these other ones where you have all these freaking crazy unlocks right away and you have to worry about all this dilution. Like their team and investor unlocks don't start until the end of October of this year. And then it's a 3-year vesting period. So to me, this is like the biggest freaking no-brainer. But what's really frustrating and why we're seeing these damn sell-offs is this freaking Bitmart, man. Look at this shit. 77% of their freaking volume right now. And look at the spread. So somebody is arbitraging this shit and they keep bleeding the token out. So I think they're buying on one exchange and they're selling over here. Or they're wash trading somehow or another. They're arbitraging this because this thing has like almost no liquidity. It's 77% of the volume and it's just bleeding the token out. And as far as I know, I mean, Quez said this on our happy hour last night. The team does not have a relationship set up with Bitmart. So I don't know how you can get an exchange to delist your token if they did it on their own accord. But this is what seems to me to be the issue. And it's like, it pisses me off because obviously I have a big bag of this and I can't imagine the team's happy because I know they've invested a lot of time and money into it themselves. So to me, it's a gift. Guys, I mean, their goal is to get to hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. Like, let's say it takes 2 years, fine, 3 years, whatever. This team has done this before. So you look at the upside potential here. I think this could be $1 billion project. I mean, that would be a 500x. I mean, you got to take into consideration unlocks. Let's say the supply increases to 500 million. Sure. So 250x. That's like the upside potential, but to me, just the risk reward is so good. But they got to figure out how to get this thing to stop bleeding out because that's just pissing me off. And I don't know what they can do about this. If anybody knows, let me know because I'll talk to them. So that's number one. Is 375 AI. Silencio is another one. They pivoted. So they were doing like noise pollution data, which is like a very limited market, but they pivoted to collecting voice data to train AI models. I had no idea how massive a market this is. Theo and was it Thomas, I believe, his two brothers that started this. I brought them on for one of my spaces. Guys, this is a company that is basically training voice AI, and they just raised $500 million at $11 billion valuation. Guess what they need? They need voice data for their models. Guess what Silencio is doing? They're collecting voice data for their models. The amount of revenue they're already collecting is actually crazy. I believe, and their customers keep giving them bigger contracts. You can say it's pure garbage, but you have no fucking clue what you're talking about, dude. Explain. If you think it's noise pollution data, then you're dead wrong. These guys pivoted like 2 months ago, and they're on pace right now to be hitting like 15 million a month in revenue. If you're paying attention, you can't be looking at what they were doing in the past. You got to look what they're doing now, or just lose out. I mean, whatever. They're also introducing open market buys and burns. Okay, so that's something they just announced as well. So, guys, when you see the amount of revenue they're getting after their pivot, and this is why it's low. It's because of this, right? People make up their mind on something, and then they're not willing to pivot. when things change. You have to be able to pivot both ways, by the way, guys. Like there's certain things, like Demo is a great example of this, where huge believer in what they're doing. They made a pivot I didn't agree with, that I advised them against, and that was a bad pivot. And I sold my bags when that happened. Same with H&T. After on January 2nd, they announced that they were no longer going to double up their buys. I sold my H&T and invest in other things. So, all right, bro. I mean, so be it. But I think it's important to be able to be flexible. And if they pivot in the right way, I think you're missing out on opportunities, man. This thing's sitting at 1.5 million, but that's because it's sitting at 1.5 million because people don't know that they pivoted, and because they're stubborn. You know. So that's my view on it. I think that they're doing all the right things. But I'll tell you what, like I had the same idea about them though. If you'd asked me 4 months ago before this pivot, I didn't hold any SLC. I wanted nothing to do with it. I was like, if it's noise pollution data, like great. How big is the market for that? You know, different now, I'd say. All right. Aoki, what do you say? How can you prove what there's? How can you prove? I don't need to prove anything. What are you talking about? I had them on my space. Listen to the space, man. I talked to them directly. So, that's up to you. You got to do you do the research. Like I'm not telling you like you have to invest in this. Like if you think that they suck, then don't invest in them. But I'm just telling you what my view is and why I'm investing in them. You got to do your own research and decide, prove that to yourself, brother. Aoki is closing in on their first 8-figure deal. So they're out here crushing it. They got their cactus product that's doing well. I have to say they have several, they got 2 Fortune 500 companies in the US that they're running paid pilots with. They have a huge company in Europe, a grocery store that they're working with their cactus product on. And now they're starting to introduce different, so this is a product, right? It's called a Gaussian technology where they can basically recreate. So eventually what they'll be able to do is to have robots in there that are just going around and capturing imagery constantly. So they'll be able to have these 3D replica models, and they'll have hotspots on shelves. So that's something they're already working on in their product that they're testing with some companies, that they can show which parts of the shelf are getting the most, the most sales, basically, so they can check product placement and stuff. Just a lot of analytics that these companies have never had access to. It also has the ability, and they have Mintra glasses, so they're going to have smart glasses that are open source that they're working in all of this. They already have a lot of locations set up so their employees can, like a manager can basically leave all the tasks, virtual tasks around the store for the employees. They don't have to have a handoff every morning. And then that employee will be routed where they need to go. They can be a lot more efficient to do all those tasks throughout the day. The Fortune 500 companies they're working with in the US are not grocery stores either. So they're branching out to new types of companies. And once they start adding robotics into the mix, it's going to be freaking nuts. So they're based out of Hong Kong. Aoki's crushing it, man. They've seen quite a correction as well. I guess today they're up 13%, but they were down quite a bit, but 17.8 million. I mean, they've gotten up to 80 million, but this is one that hasn't had their big run yet. They launched their token back in August of 2024. We've had horrible market conditions, really. I mean, we had that big run up in, December after the Trump pump, and then, so this is one that to me hasn't had its moment yet. And that's kind of what I'm looking for, guys, is like, which of these projects have been able to learn from the mistakes of some of the, the other older projects that already have product market fit early on, so they can start having revenue to offset dilution right away, as opposed to diluting a bunch and then having to catch up with revenue later. Like that's the big problem. That's why a lot of these charts, in my opinion, you look at like Helium all time. That's the problem, man. They were diluting. Yes, the price action was all based on hype from the market cycle, but there's no revenue through any of this time. Zero revenue. Is all hype buying, dilution, mass dilution, and they finally found product market fit. But like, look at the price. It's because now that they have open market buys and burns, they're offsetting all this dilution from the early days. It's something similar with what we're seeing with HiveMapper, I think. They had so many token unlocks to employees and investors. Yeah, we saw that big run up because the dilution was super low, Coinbase listing, right? But now they have some contracts and revenue coming in, but like, think about how much dilution they have to offset. Like, same type of deal. Like, it's uphill battle. 375 AI, I think they're going to get, they haven't had a lot of dilution. They've been a lot more thoughtful with their tokenomics. And, I think because of that, the token is going to do quite well once, revenue starts coming in. And I believe in that team so much. Silencio, they haven't been around that long. January, so just over a year. So another one where they just announced open market buys and burns. They've got, and I'll tell you what, this pivot, without that pivot, I wouldn't be interested in the token. And I do question, like, what's the runway for this? Like, for this voice data, maybe they have a couple of year window, and then can they strike a gold again with another pivot? I don't know, but I know they did on this one. And I know what their revenue run rate looks like. And the fact that they're changing their tokenomics to give more utility from that revenue to the token, that to me is an outlier, at least for the next year or two. After that, I don't know. Alki, same thing. And then to your point, GeoNet's the other one, guys. Like, why do you think this chart looks different than the rest? Because they were thoughtful about their tokenomics, guys. They found product market fit, but they did a couple of things really well. They balanced their network growth, so they didn't have like mass amounts of supply going out, so, super early on, but they also were really thoughtful about their token unlocks to employees and investors, right? They found product market fit, and they're also very aggressive. They've been very transparent from day one. 80% of revenue goes to open market buys and burns. Okay, it's all been being able to be tracked. And that's why you see, like, it's not like this huge boom and then bleed out. We found solid footing, guys. Like, yes, we've had surges. Everyone surged in March of 2024. No one else surged in April. I'll tell you that much. That was them. That was decoupled. You're not going to see any other DePIN chart or any alt chart that looks like this, right? September, nobody else was, going into October of 2024 and into the election. Certainly, they saw the pump in December. That was every project saw that. They pumped in January. Nobody else was pumping in January, right? So these are all like, this chart looks so different than everything else, and I think this is like what we want to see out of DePIN. We want to see decoupling. In other words, we don't want the charts to move in conjunction with Ethereum and Bitcoin, every freaking other altcoin out there, guys. Like, that just, if you see a chart that looks the same as every meme coin and every other project out there, that means there's a fundamental disconnect between the fundamentals and revenue and the token price. Okay, if it's just sentiment movement, that's not good. This is great. This is what we want to see. And this is why I think GeoNet, we need GeoNet to succeed. I actually talked to Mike Gordon this morning about this. And I was like, we need you guys to keep doing what you're doing, keep succeeding, because this can pave the way for other projects now to have, that framework to work off of. Like, okay, this works. We haven't seen it yet. So I think this is super exciting, guys. And all that to say, to come back on this, like, DePIN is getting a lot of money. We're seeing, I think, a lot of the fluff is going to get, the BS projects are going to get wiped out. And I think there's a lot of eyeballs right now on DePIN. We're still very small, though. You look at the entire market cap of crypto, we're a very, very small subset, but I think that's going to change. And that's why it's super exciting that we're early in all this. And I know the market's been down and everyone says DePIN's dead and blah, 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 blah. I disagree. But I think it's really important, though. It's got to be the right projects. And I think GeoNet, baby, is like, they're going to make it happen. Let's go. Let's go. Token prices have in 2025, but look at the revenue, man. I mean, like, you can say, yeah, it's been a disaster, I suppose, but like, look at the customers, Web2 customers, look at the revenue growth. Like, we have multiple projects now that are profitable, they're bringing in more revenue than their burn rate. Like, I would argue they're the most successful thing in all of crypto, actually, because like before the institutional interest, like Ethereum, yeah, now we have, stable coins from institutional interest going on there. Solana, we have stocks going on there. Before that, like, what? Seriously, like, what was really being built that is going to stand the test of time that's actually a viable business? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. NFTs, meme coins, give me a break, dude. So, like, yes, I think you could say that it's been a disaster in the sense that I think tokenomics haven't been figured out yet. But I think considering how early stage DePIN is, I think it's been a massive success in many ways. Now that final piece is getting the tokenomics ironed out, because we need, now that we have revenue, we need that to show up in the token value. And that's what's been missing, in my opinion. I think GeoNet can make it happen, yo. Joe, I'll send you an invite here in a minute. We can get it. We can chop it up for a minute. I got two things to cover. He said, very true. Oh man. Daba and Wingbits. Wingbits keeps pushing out their TGE. I have to say, like, every project's pushing out their TGE right now because these conditions are abysmal. I can't blame projects for doing that, but here's the problem. I mean, look at 375 AI, right? Like, a very solid project, but they launched 2 weeks after October 10th. I think if they knew like how bad things were going to get, that you'd have the biggest, not only the biggest wipeout in history, but then, this much pain, they probably would have pushed it out. I don't know that for a fact, but I would imagine they probably would have, knowing what we know now. But like, if you're waiting for perfect market conditions, then like, when are you going to launch your token? Like Wingbits, they've been, people have been setting up these stations for quite a while now. Like, you can only push out so long, I guess, is my main thing. Daba, man, let's look at their portal. Good question. With Daba, we're never going to know until they do their TGE, right? So very, very scary. I kind of disagree to an extent. I've come back and forth on this. And these market, like, think about this. If you've been building for the last, 2 years, your blood, sweat, and tears into a project every single day, grinding, and you see that the few projects that have launched in these conditions have just been absolutely wrecked. And you have investor money, right? And you need to do right by your investors. I think it's really easy to type into a keyboard like, oh, this is a really, really scary thing. It's like, you have to also make a business decision, man. These are really tough decisions for these people. And after putting up that much work in, I don't know necessarily that you should be forced to launch in these conditions. So I think that you really have to consider that, man. Now, I don't believe in just like pushing out forever. Like, at some point, it's like, all right, like, market conditions aren't going to get better anytime soon. So freaking launch your token, right? But I do get some of them that are pushing out a little bit, I have to say. So here's what Daba claims. 107,000 hotspots deployed. A lot of bandwidth. They've sold 24,206 hotspots. So they say they're continuing to deploy, and there's going to be active, and then people will invest. Here's the deal, y'all. Like, this is the first kind of project where we're not the ones deploying. So we have to trust that these deployments are going out. They've started like uploading invoices and stuff, and it's like, all right, but until we see stuff on chain, like there's no way to know for sure unless you want to fly out to India. I don't know. Like I have a bunch of hotspots that I have on here, so we'll see. We'll see what happens, man. But if these metrics are real, and they're at all the events, it's not like they're just like hiding. they're at all these different events. So we'll see. But until we see the stuff on chain, yeah, there's no way to verify for sure. But they do, I mean, they do have some big backers for sure. So they pulled the wool over their eyes after I think they raised like $10 million from Borderless or something. Like, I mean, I don't know. I'd have a hard time believing it, but you never know. Wouldn't be the first time in crypto. What do you say? Exhibits punted too? Man, I haven't talked to them in a while. Like that is a very solid project if they can get things going. But I don't, at this point, like I wonder if they're even questioning whether to go the crypto route or not because things have been so bad. They don't really need to. So, all right. I'll leave you with these. So you guys remember virtuals? We'll get Joe in here. I'll get Joe to chop it up a little bit here. And then I got to hop off though. I've got like an Olympics party I got to go to tonight. I'll leave you with this. So virtuals last year went freaking bananas, right? It was like the AI agent thing. I did pretty well. Some of them I covered, I didn't get into, and I should have, or I sold too soon, and someone did like 100x. We've got a couple AI agents here that have launched, and these are Web 2 guys building them. So this guy, Austin Allred, I would say at the very least, like follow these guys and just keep them on your radar and check out the charts and just follow it at the very least. But this guy launched this Kelly Claude AI. So this is an AI agent that's like out here running a business and generating revenue. So their first day of revenue, they generated $1,700. These agents are like burning tokens. It's actually insane. So this is one, you look at what happened with virtuals last year, those agents weren't doing anything. It was just like the AI agent hype. This thing is actually running shit. And there's some big accounts following these by the way. So you got to look at where the eyeballs are. This one's sitting at like 7.93 million. There's a big dip. This is yesterday, right? After that big crash, it got down to 2 million and it's bounced back very nicely. So this one, I would say Kelly Claude, keep an eye on. I'm not saying to go in there. I mean, if I see this thing drop back down to here, I probably will grab a pretty sizable bag. This one, another guy. So I think they know each other. This guy is another builder. Both these in Web 2 space, like app builders. They built these on-chain AI agents. So give him a follow. And this is his agent. So this Felix, same thing. It's notable though that he's like, woke up to one of my new followers. And that new follower, and keep in mind, how many followers does he have here? 2775. This is a new one. Mark Andreessen followed. And 2.53 million market cap. This thing dropped like 300,000 yesterday on that drop. Crazy, man. So I would recommend just following the X accounts, keeping an eye on them. For me, like I'm not adding more. I have bags. I actually got substantial bags in this. I'm not adding right now. If I see it drop back down and we see like a big sell off, I would. But one person came in and bought $30,000 worth for a liquidity pool earlier. So crazy. So these are two that if market conditions continue, if we don't see another washout, could be very interesting ones. So at least have in your radar. You see Kelly Claude trending up there. Interesting. That's what I got. I say Griffin Fire also claims it's the best. Brad, someone told me you and Summer. Who? Summer from Five. I don't know. Actually, I think I've seen her videos, but I don't know her. Interesting. All right. Where Joe, I'm gonna send you this invite. We'll bring Joe in. We'll get spicy. We'll get spicy. Where we at? Joe Network bit. Boom. Am I a fan of AI and crypto? What do you mean by that? I believe in. Let me pull this down. We'll let Joe get in here, and then Joe, you can send it to Bobby. By AI, I believe in data collection to train AI models, for sure. Because I think if you can crowdsource data collection, that's an easy use case. I believe in. I think some of the AI compute networks will do quite well, actually. I'm interviewing the CEO of Akash next Thursday, Akash Network. So you look at these data centers and you look at the amount of workloads that are going to be moved over to inference soon. That's something that can be handled. Training can't be handled by these networks. I don't care what they say. But inference within the next few years is going to be 80% of the workloads for AI. So I think certainly you can make an argument. I mean, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, tweeted that, decentralized compute using blockchain is going to be very important. Like our Treasury Secretary tweeted that. So yeah, especially when the AI data centers can't be turned on, they don't have enough power. Yeah, I think so. I think we could see some of those projects do quite well. Like your Akash Networks, Nosana, Render even had a little bit of a run recently. IONET even maybe. They shifted their tokenomics recently. I don't know. I think AI agents payment rails are going to be on chain, for sure. And I do think that again, the compute side of things, yeah, and data collection. But other than that, like I don't know. I don't know if I see the necessity to have overlap with crypto. Joe, I sent you the link. I can only do like another 10 minutes though, man. I gotta hop here and head to this. Do you guys see Lindsey Vonn is like skiing on a freaking torn ACL? That's insane. I was like watching her test run, and like every time she like bent down, I was like, oh god, it's so crazy. I don't know how she's doing that. Also, we're waiting for Joe to hop in. I'm reading this book. This is a great book, by the way. It's on nutrition. So moving to a more Mediterranean diet. I'm getting rid of some of the red meats, some of the saturated fats, going more to like an oil-based fish and poultry based diet. Getting more whole wheats on the lower on the glycemic index, and more fruits and vegetables, man. So been a good read. Cover a lot. I do cover a lot of topics, I guess. He said, come to Portugal. I would love to come to Portugal. I'd love to come to Portugal. I need to come out there. Joe, are you coming, brother? Oh, Joe has entered the studio.
Hey, you hear me all right?
Oh, what's up? Yeah, I can hear you. Look at that Solana hoodie.
Yeah.
You just throw that on?
Yep. How's it going?
Were you wearing that, or you just throw that on?
I just threw it on just for the stream.
Let's go. I like it.
All right. What are we talking about?
Where's this new setup at?
My basement.
Oh,
Got my lab behind me. I got my guitar, and I need to set up my.
What kind of meth lab is that? Just kidding.
Reverse hyperextension machines. Best investment you can for your lower back. It's great.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So anyway,
let's talk about this. Do you see Solana as a $500 to $1,000 token?
I don't know. Not anytime soon.
Yeah.
I am very interested. I haven't spent a lot of time lately on crypto digging into it, but what I am very interested in is seeing how it plays out with the Solana validator situation. Remember a year ago at the Solana, was it, what do they call it? I don't know if it's Breakpoint or their big meetup. They were mentioning how the Solana Foundation was subsidizing essentially nearly all the validators because only 10% of the validators that were online at the time were profitable.
Yeah, it's a problem. They're gonna have to do something to address it.
They've already
Sure.
done something. They've yanked away those subsidies, and now we're seeing, you know, a lot of validators go offline.
Yeah.
But and then when it comes like, there is so much to how a Solana validator is profitable beyond just, the staking. I would argue beyond just, how many people stake to a validator and its performance. I do believe that part of the reason these validators are profitable, you see these wallets, if you look at the more advanced features as to, how much you can pay for gas fees and, the tip that you can give them, and, get, if you want to cut the line per se, a lot of that, if you're not, and it's the same for the other chains, if you don't go in there and set it to what you want manually, they do take a little bit more than what your typical gas fees would be. And I think that is one of the ways that there are, I don't want to call it artificial, but like making these things profitable. Otherwise, I don't think the gas fees would make them profitable. If you're saying it's like over $5,000 a month to operate a validator,
I mean, the staking fees are right because they I think, was it 7% inflation annually? I think, was it 7%? So I think that's how they pay their staking fees, just through dilution. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, at that point, then if you have 7% dilution, you have to hope that your token appreciates by at least 7% a year to offset. So I feel like they're going to have to make some more changes to make this more viable long term. It's something that I've watched a couple of videos on, but certainly not necessarily my expertise.
It has to be usage and profitability. I think would be the main point.
Where's the usage going to come from, though? I mean, the meme coin are what like really gave them a lot of usage. Now, a lot of the stocks being added, like on Robinhood, and some of the tokenized stocks are being done on Solana, so that's big.
Yeah.
And I think DePIN is important for DePIN in the sense that, they can show that people are real buildings taking place, but most of the transactions for DePIN are not on chain. So it's not like
the majority of the transactions don't want to say majority, but a large portion of it are being done by bots and auto trading. So, agree or disagree.
Like market makers absolutely are pushing volume up. That's been happening for years.
I think. And it's the same thing in the real world with stocks, the high frequency trading. That's the majority of the volume, the traffic that's being done. So no matter how many projects come about, in my opinion, now I could be way out in left field on this, but how many projects can be built and how much more traffic can be generated? Is it really going to outdo the bots?
I mean, it depends. It depends on what they're doing. If they add, a lot of these tokenized stocks, I think for sure you could see if everyone's trading on chain using Solana, like I could see that be huge for them.
Maybe so, but I guess the point I'm making is like how can it actually be profitable? Like just by bringing more projects, you get what I'm saying? Like,
you
need a shit ton more traffic, and how much traffic is generated, how many transactions are generated by these bots already, and just another project coming along is fractional in comparison. So like gas, and I guess to get to the point, it's doable, and like gas fees in my mind are that of what is the usage fee that Visa or MasterCard charge every time you scan your card, right? But the Visa and MasterCard systems, they don't have they're not wide open to the internet for anyone to use. So you can't just have like all these crazy DDoS attacks and attacks on the chains, etc. So that infrastructure, in comparison, one server probably costs a little bit less to host monthly than a Solana server, right? Because with a validator, you know, you need a massive connection circuit when it comes to speed. You need like a 10 gig circuit, and then you need some sort of protection to filter those attacks against your server. So that costs you a couple grand right there. There's a lot of overhead that goes into running these,
for sure.
and you know, the gas fees are like a fraction of a cent, just about.
Yeah, it looks like right here it's saying that Solana is generating 1.12 million in fees every day. That's nothing. I mean, and you compare it to the market cap, it's almost a 50 billion, and that's after a sell-off, right? Big sell-off. So like over 1 million a day. I mean, like Helium's almost doing that, you know, like that's wait, what's the Helium doing per month right now? I guess is it 10 million, I think now. So they're not doing that much more than some of these DePIN projects. So I just don't know, like, for this to get to 500 to 1,000, I used to think that too, but I'm like, they're going to have to get a lot more volume on the network and a lot more, right, to justify that, because that's going to be a huge freaking market cap. And, you know, then again, a lot of these L1s, in my opinion, have had some like aggressively high market caps. I mean,
yeah, everything has. I mean, it's mostly speculation, right?
Yeah. I think you're going to see a lot of these top 100 washed out, though. Like, how many of these projects, especially the ones that had their all-time high in the last market cycle, that have just kind of like aren't doing much? Who can't? It's one that's interesting. That's been kind of rising in the ranks a little bit. Monero is a good privacy one, but like some of these old ones, like I just don't know how many of these are going to make it. Like it was so much easier to raise capital in 2019, 2020, and all these VCs were just throwing money around like crazy.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot harder now to raise money, you know. What are your thoughts on XNet? Joe?
For some reason I can't see that comment.
No?
Anyways, yeah, here's your thoughts on XNet. Market fit is right with offloading telecom for big carriers. Helium proves that, but it's still a tiny market cap, but doesn't have the early dilution like Helium. From what I've read from the team, there's a lot of growth predicted in the next year. All right, let me push back on the point. It doesn't have the early dilution like Helium, because it does. All right, if you look at like the weird changes they made to their tokenomics, when you have to go back and look at it, read through the Discord history, because they won't say it up front, but didn't they start off with something like 10 billion tokens, and they like something crazy, and then they sliced it to like 1/10.
So it's 2.4. So it's 2.4 billion here, but it says there's only.
But then they slashed it to what their max total supply would be when they moved to Solana. So all the people who got to mine early on, they were able to keep their massive bags, and then it was essentially like a burn of billions of tokens, because they didn't they changed the max cap to be so much less when they moved to Solana. So that's one point with early dilution. The other one are these damn CBRS radios that are still online there. And that is, you know, probably what they're estimating, what all their growth is going to come through. But that is still a beta testing sort of deal, where we've not seen any true, outside of like the private ISPs, CBRS hasn't been used by the telecom industry other than corner case solutions and enterprise scenarios. It's not a general public roaming, and you know, it's just not mature to the point where it needs to be. But those CBRS radios that they've had on since the very beginning, remember, XNet started as a CBRS type of project before they moved into Wi-Fi. They've been mining a ton, and that's actually what's drove the price down quite a bit, because you had some of the bigger DY companies in the space that were deploying hardware. They mined a ton, and they've been selling off a ton, and you've not seen any usage therefore no burn from the CBRS, but they're still earning while they're online. They, and they're still promising like these, I shouldn't say promising, but they're still talking about these partnerships with the big telecoms for CBRS. I just don't see it happening. They haven't been scaling up to grow those networks. They can barely get their Marconis shipped out the door. Like every time someone's tried to order those, they're out of stock, right? I don't have a favorable opinion of them whatsoever. And then, if you want to get into the dirtier side of that and about some of the histories of people at that company, and then just random stuff like some of the main managers and people involved just like dipped out for other stuff. I mean, there's nothing about XNet that is appealing to me.
I have questions.
It is diluted. Go ahead.
And I have questions around, even Helium saying they're getting 50 cents a gig from, some of this offload. I'm skeptical of that. And I think XNet's claiming higher, I believe, substantially.
And that's another
higher,
good point, Brad. They're paying out more per gig than Helium.
Yeah, so I find that hard to believe. I mean, and maybe they are, but I don't understand how they would be able to generate so much more than Helium, as an MVNO. So I have a hard time trusting that.
And it's just, you can pay so if you have a crypto token, okay, the carriers are paying you for what you offload. So if they want to pay
more,
let's say Joe's Telco, if the carriers want to pay Joe's Telco 50 cents per gigabyte, and I want to give $1 worth of crypto out of the pool to the people who set up the hotspot, you can do that until you can't. Until you have no more. Yeah, right.
Until you can't. But, yeah, I agree, man.
Buybacks are what you should be looking at when it comes to Helium and XNet. How much how many tokens are they buying back from the market? Right?
I agree. Yep.
I mean, at one point, people are just going to say, screw all this crypto crap and all your tokenomics. And why can't I just get paid fiat for this? If I have a good location, why don't you just pay me directly? That's what it's going to come down to, I believe.
Yeah.
Because everyone's tired of dealing with token dilution and changing tokenomics and people dumping on take the gambling aspect out of it, take the speculation aspect out of it. We don't need a cryptocurrency because you're not doing cross borders type of infrastructure.
Yeah. I mean, I guess two caveats to like, let's say you did do US dollars, USDC. Because I think it is important to at least see transparently like what money's being sent where. I think that should happen. Because if you're, especially if you're having a token, because this is not like investing in a stock. You don't have the same ownership rights, or investment rights as owning stock. A token is not the same. So I think there should be a level of transparency there. But the other thing is like, how do you get your project off the ground? Okay, if you don't start off with the token and then wean off of it, because one of the things about DePIN and having a token is that you can use that to bootstrap your network. If you're doing US dollars right off the bat, you have to build the network before the revenue's there and DePIN. I mean, it's just kind of how it is. So,
sure.
So that money's got to come from somewhere. That means that you're using investor funds to pay out people as opposed to using that for growth and having your token to bootstrap.
You're totally right, but if someone can find a partnership that, or a company that just will pay, which it seems like we're getting closer to doing, where it's like, yeah, we'll do offload and pay you directly. You just need to get someone to set up hotspots. Like the incentive's already there through. I'm not explaining this very well, but I think we're closer to coming to that. Like, for example, Wi-Fi, not to be confused with Wayru. Well, yeah, Wi-Fi will pay you directly. Granted that, some of their dealings are with crypto, but it's not long till they're going to have, and I believe from what I'm hearing, that they're going to have direct partnerships with the telcos. And then, yeah, people are just going to start bringing their hotspots or wireless access points to Wi-Fi and say, I'll take fiat. And then there you go. You don't need crypto anymore. You know?
Yeah.
I look, I believe you can do some of this stuff if you have VC is willing to support it.
Yeah.
And you can land customers that are like beta. So you pay out some of your money to the early adopters, some of the VC money to the early adopters. And you just, you eat the cost for the first year. That's how you would bootstrap a network, right?
I mean, Silencia has already started doing US dollar payments. So they give you the option because they have enough revenue coming in now that they're passing it on. You can do USDC payouts, or you can choose SLC, or if you stake your SLC, you can get higher payouts on your USDC. So that's an interesting concept. Someone said 70 cents is brutal. Yeah. Right. Is it 70 cents right now? I was looking at that chart earlier. I was like, I should have shorted the shit out of that when Amir said that they were no longer doing the open market buys and burns.
I would love, and this all goes back to the open market buys and burns.
86.
Nobody ever really talks about, like, is there a stat for the open market buys and burns there, Brad?
There should be.
It seems to always be.
Unless the block works.
There's always revenue, and there's always talk about the data transfer, but never really the buybacks. It's very elusive when it comes to every project, even like GeoNet.
You can see theirs on chain. So GeoNet. I was talking to Mike about this. So I
want to understand half. So they do buybacks with half the revenue, and then they burn from their
treasury.
Yeah.
Who?
GeoNet. Is
I
that
don't
true?
Think so. I don't think so. They're 80% buy and burn. So I know for a while on Polygon, what they were doing was regular buys, right, throughout the day, because they didn't want people, if they did like a one buy on like a Monday, they didn't want people to game that, right? If they knew.
Oh, got it. Well, that's understandable.
Yeah.
From what I was told is that they would burn from the treasury from the tokens that weren't emitted yet. I never really looked into it, but I know of other projects who do that. Say, we burned $1,000 worth of tokens today, and it's just tokens that weren't emitted. I know.
If it burns out of a treasury, it's smoke and mirrors, dude. That doesn't mean anything. You're burning tokens that are made up tokens anyway that are sitting in a treasury that you printed out of thin air. Like, that's stupid.
Yeah, I mean.
You can see here though the net inflation rate. So helium has been deflationary, so they're burning more than they're putting out because the price is so low, right? The lower the price, the more tokens are burned from that revenue subsequently. Yeah. So they've been negative. This is a Blockworks one. So I don't know. You have data credits burn. So this is when they discontinued their doubling. Because they were doing burns with all the helium mobile revenue too, and then so that basically got cut in half. So I mean, it's still like substantial burns. I mean, if you remember back in the last market cycle, remember there's that they're burning like $7,000 a year in revenue.
Yeah.
So they obviously very different from then.
But once again, and it's across the board. Same thing with HiveMapper. I mean, these token prices are just so bad for companies that are bringing in revenue. It's just like,
dude, it's because they had too much dilution up front. So like when you put all these tokens out there, when you finally years later turn on revenue, you got to offset all that early dilution. There's so much sell pressure, this wall of selling. Your revenue's finally there, but it's going to take. You can't expect it to happen like immediately. I mean, you got to beat down that sell pressure wall, and eventually, as your revenue grows, you'll find an equilibrium. But that's the problem. That's one thing that GeoNet's done really well is they were way more thoughtful on their early, emissions. They're more aggressive on their buys and burns with 80%, and that's why their chart looks so much better.
Yeah, it's just, man. I could go on for an hour about Hive Mapper right now. I'm so disgusted with how that project has turned out. I mean, this stupid bee. I don't even have it mounted anymore. I bought one. I totally regret doing so. Yeah, it's
I got mine out there running. Yeah, I've got it's on an LTE plan, but like,
are you earning decent?
enough to more than cover my split. Enough to more than cover my cost. But I'm like, here's the problem with them too, is too much dilution.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they had, between the investors and their employees, 4 billion tokens.
Well, I believe it was like 30 to 35% was allotted to the community.
Yeah,
40 tokens, like
40%.
Really?
So all of their tokens though unlocked already now to investors, and that's crazy.
And
to have that much
conveniently
dilution.
right when the bull run was supposed to take place. They timed that perfectly.
All of them did. Well, they timed it perfectly, except the bull run didn't happen like everyone expected.
Yeah, no kidding. So
it was actually perfect for us, for early people that earn, because the big surge happened before their unlocks were.
Yeah,
in hindsight, but
and I'm glad I sold off mine when I did. But you have to think, like, Ariel has to be crapping a brick right now. Just he must be in a world of hurt. And part of what really agitates me is like all these, like I said in last night's stream, all these CEOs are trying to channel their inner Elon or channel their inner Donald. So they go on, Twitter or X, and they try to say something that is just clever and philosophical, and what's the word for it? But I'm drawing a blank on the word I want to use. Profound. They want to say something so profound. So he goes out there and he gets on his soapbox and he's bitching about how many asses he wants in seats in the office every day over there in San Francisco. But then they start posting jobs for developers in third world countries. You have to wonder why that is. Okay. Like, really, dude? Are you that broke and that like hard up for developers? Other than that, like this whole thing with the fleet and management, all trying to cram into one device. I have my B here somewhere. I should grab it. But like, if you truly wanted to do a fleet management product, why would you try to cram it all into one camera, into a camera that big? They could have engineered this so much better in a modular way. So, for example, you get one device that has your compute system, typically everything that you need, your CPU, RAM, storage, so and so, and you could just shove it in the console of your not the console, you could shove it in the glove box of your car and power it there, right? And maybe run wires, maybe do it wirelessly, but you'd get a module for a camera that you put in your freaking windshield. That's much smaller than the mini laptop. Regardless, it's a pretty large device that you have to stick in your front window. Kind of a safety concern. Also could get you a ticket in most places, but even keeping it mounted correctly, like it's a big pain in the ass. It's just such a bad design. So point being, they could have used a much smaller camera, and if they would have made this modular, they could have included additional sensors, additional cameras for if you wanted to map in multiple angles and directions, sensors for actual fleet management type of stuff. If you wanted to at one point offer, like LiDAR outside of the freaking car, you could have put one on your bumper or something. They should have made it modular, but they didn't. They tried to cram it all into one device, and it's a catastrophic failure. And it's
But who the hell?
limitations?
Who the hell is going to take a modular? Who the hell is going to set up all these different like things? His goal is to make it so that
all the DePIN dipshits, but also if you want to do real fleet management type of stuff, that would be the way to go. Wouldn't you think? You only buy the devices that you need for fleet management.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's certainly missteps, but they also were able to take this data and sell it to a lot of different companies. I mean, you have to give them that. Like, that is impressive. They were able to sell for a DePIN project. So that's something you have to give them credit for. But like, here's the point though that we were making is like, this is right when, let me zoom out a little bit so we can look at the dates here. This is right when the token was listed on Coinbase. Look at how many tokens, like the vast majority of the tokens out there at that point, about half of them were from rewards for drivers. Their investors and team had barely started getting unlocks yet. So the spread or the emissions weren't that high yet. But then you look at what happened over the next year and a half, they were fully vested already, both of them. As of October 5th of 2025, 4 billion tokens to team and investors fully vested in that short amount of time. That blue and that green are all the unlocks that took place.
Yeah.
All that dilution now is like what they have to overcome with revenue. And like, it's going to be very difficult. It's going to take time. And they did just raise, they had their $18 million investment round, but I don't know how much that is going to so they can finance these cameras. So either way, like this is what you want to, if you can get these up into a project early before these unlocks happen, like that's how you can see the crazy multiples, or find a project that's not aggressively unlocking like that, that has a different unlock schedule, over like 3 or 4 years as opposed to 2. I think the investors were like a 1-year cliff and a 1-year vesting schedule. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, the execution of Hive Mapper has just been so atrocious and just such a disappointment and a slap in the face to the entire community. Just Ariel's entire attitude has been.
I think after the big run up in Honey token, he was a little bit high on his own supply there, but it does seem like he's come down to earth a little bit recently.
Well, I think he needs to focus on his own shit rather than what everyone's saying on X. He needs to get off X and stop worrying about people like me quitting their jobs to map full time.
Joe, you ruined it for everybody.
Yeah, I ruined it for everyone.
You ruined it for everybody, actually. Like, for real. Like, he was like, Gabe, take care of this.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I'm like, dude, my rewards just got cut by 70%. Yeah, Gabe, that dude, he actually, I think more than anybody, ruined that project. So
yeah,
and then he sold his tokens and then moved on. So that guy,
snake, isn't he?
He is 100%.
Yeah.
What are I hate talking about people that aren't here to defend themselves, but I think he deserves it. What are the chances?
Anytime.
Yeah, I would say it's his face too. Him and I didn't necessarily see eye to eye. What are the chances of a HIP to fix the number of tokens, stop emitting more? I mean, the missions are out there. They can't do anything about it now on Helium. Like if you look at the early IoT days were nuts, man. Like, they have a halving every 2 years, but they had very few, when they were the early people that were setting up these IoT devices, some of them were making thousands of dollars, a month, some like hundreds of dollars a day, especially if you got like the consensus reward. People were making a killing.
Bitcoin is truth. Let me tell you, what you're saying right there is like, you're just asking for disaster, because every time they've tried to fix something, it's gotten significantly worse. It's like, I take, for example, this whole debacle with creating this mobile and IoT, right? If you say just those terms and it triggers some people, they'll start screaming into the microphone because they lost so much money during that whole fiasco. I was one of the people who rooted against it. I turned out to be correct. But what did they end up doing? So they decided that they wanted to create a mobile network, and they didn't want to start a new token because they said, well, everyone will just only speculate to the new mobile token and divest from HNT, the original one. AKA all the owners and early comers and people in Nova who had been mining since the very inception and accumulated their bags, they didn't want to start a new token because they would lose a bunch of value in their massive bag holding, right? That's what it comes down to. So Helium was very, very clever for that first initial 2-year run that they had, because the way they lined all that up, it wasn't a coincidence that maybe a couple of events were, but the way that token shot to over $54, that was a very well executed strategy, in my opinion.
Well, they didn't know. I don't think they knew how fast they're going, and like they didn't know
go up to that, but
they didn't know Sam Bankman-Fried was going to come in and dump $100 million in one night into the HNT token and play. You know, I don't think they could have foreseen that, because that's what took us from like the 30s to like 50s, was that one night when Sam Bankman-Fried and Alameda Research came in and pumped it.
Want to talk network architecture and strategy and game theory around tokenomics? We can go out to the bar one night and drink, and I'll explain to you how that was executed. And they were very good at doing it, right? They got it good the first, and I think they got really full of themselves about how clever that they are, and you know, that's what led to this HIP 51. People believing that like they could, you know, what do they call it when you pull off something twice in a row? I don't know.
Pull the wool over their eyes. I don't know.
I don't know.
Fool me once.
Those are my
twice. Can't get fooled again.
Well, I wouldn't say necessarily fooling people. Is trying to pull off what is, you know, a long shot, trying to do it twice in like the most complex technical manner. It's, you know, so whatever. Look, I have to say, I'm pretty happy. I ended up selling the majority of my crypto at basically the right time, because I had things to pay for, and had I held on to a lot of it, I'd be still holding. Okay.
Fear and greed index, baby. I tell you what, it's marked the top every freaking time for the last 4 years. And I was able to short the market yesterday and make some money, so that was cool. No, I was referencing that George Bush quote where he goes, "Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, can't get fooled again." So good.
Well,
so good. It's funny because some of the stuff he says sounds more coherent now.
No kidding. But man, he's never mind.
Yeah. I think I know where you're going at with that.
But Dick Cheney's fist up his ass is what it is.
Good old Dick Cheney. Oh, he said beers.
Roast in hell.
We do need to get some beers again. We have met one time before. I wonder if I have that picture.
Who is Bitcoin is Truth? You know, that's someone local?
Bitcoin is Truth. Where are you located?
Oh, you're talking about me. I thought you were talking about him.
I'm talking about you.
Yeah, let's go get some drinks soon.
I'm trying to see if I have the pictures. No, I don't know where that picture is. That was a while ago, though.
Yeah. I just hate going out to the Chicago area, man. I'll hit you up when I go into work.
Let me know.
It's close enough.
That was when was this? That 20? It was winter. Was it 2024?
Yeah, it had to be over a year ago.
Yeah, it was. Oh yeah. Yeah. I think I found it here. That was fun though. Oh, buddy. Did you get your YouTube channel back?
Yeah, I have it. I mean, I kind of share it with them now, but they don't use it for anything. You know, I don't really want to be affiliated with the crypto space too much anymore. Like, I'll come on and do like guest appearances, but everyone thinks, thought I was nuts to begin with. And for a while there, it was like there was hope, there was belief that something would pan out. And when the projects that I don't want to say endorse, but like that I would talk about, when they rug pulled, or like we have to spend 7 episodes bitching about them because everything's so jacked up. It's like now, like, it looks bad on my part, right? It's just like, why am I associated with this? Why am I wasting my time? If I've sold stuff for Helium, not Helium, Hive Mapper, for XNet, for a few others that like I all ended up hating and despising how they were carrying themselves. And it's like,
Yeah.
I just did not feel like I didn't feel good about the way that my audience kind of got screwed. I mean, I got screwed too, but like, I don't want to be peddling stuff, even though I always say not financial advice. You tell people not to play with money that they can't afford to lose, but you know that they will. And I don't want to make some scumbags rich. It's just there's so much I got rid of so much aggravation by getting away from the space,
Yeah. I mean, there's still opportunity to make a lot of money in this space, though.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And
Well,
like, we'll see how this all plays out.
About going into something like, so next year I'll have a lot of money to play with. So I'm going to look at making some big moves, and maybe some of them will be in crypto. We'll see. But if anyone has any ideas, I'm going to have, yeah. So we'll talk then. I'm not sure it's going to be in crypto though. So I'll have a nice chunk of change to play with, and I'm investing it somehow, right? Like, I'm not sure that's going to be in crypto, but if we can find something lucrative, I'm sure.
I wish I could share this, man. I'm trying to share this picture. I found it. It's not going to let me do it because the file type. That's annoying. Damn.
You're just trying to make me look short.
No, get out of here.
I look short in that picture standing next to you. I'm 6 foot. Brad, you're like 6'3", 6'4",
6'5", yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't get this thing I can't share this file. It's annoying.
What is the DC Builder Camp? Bitcoin is truth.
Where's DC Builder Camp? Tyson's, Virginia. Huh. I used to live in Arlington, Virginia for a little bit, actually. Boom, boom, boom. I don't know what that is, though.
Yeah. I don't know. How is that? Did you ever drink that? What was it? I think it was a bottle of whiskey I gave you.
Yeah, actually, I had some the other day. I was like, oh, it's like this from Joe. Yeah.
So I went to a Cisco event that night, and they always give away real cool stuff. But I don't know. At the time, I didn't drink a lot.
At the time.
Since then, yeah, I've been drinking a lot more lately. Like,
nice. Yeah.
I mean, fuck, dude.
Well, we gotta do it again, man.
Yeah, we will. And then, like Chris Bagnell, I've yet to meet him in person.
Really? I met him out in Vegas.
He's been out here twice. Where, he was within like 50 miles. So in the city, then went out to a town in the suburbs. And like one time I was traveling, the other time I couldn't make it to see him. So I missed him both times he's out here. And I always go out to the part of New York that he works in and lived in at one time. I was out there 3 times, and I wasn't able to catch him any of the time. So I have to go hunt him down.
Yeah. I haven't talked to Chris in a little while, actually.
Helium Builders Boot Camp DC tickets. How much is that going to cost to get in? What? Learn how to deploy hotspots, pick local businesses, then hit Dew Point Circle for real-world deployments, pizza included.
Oh. There you go.
I might have to go to this.
You should.
Yeah. It's going to be a circle jerk of amateur level people.
There you go.
Sorry.
There it is.
Yeah,
there's the alcohol too. Boom.
Yeah, I look all short in that picture. Even the guys in the DePIN Discord were like, Joe looks like he's 5'4".
I'm just kind of gigantic. That's funny though. That was a good time. Oh man. Speaking of which, I think I'm going to make a drink of that before I head out, man. Not a bad call.
I'm about to wrap it up here. Just getting done with work for the day. So,
well, we missed Bobby. Hope to join us next time.
He jumped.
I got to get you on again, man. This is always fun getting you on.
Yeah, hit me up. Let me know when you're doing this.
All right, we do every Thursday night too, by the way. So
I usually try to catch those.
You should get on with us. It's always more spicy when you're on there.
Yeah,
Joe.
I know. I was trolling a little bit yesterday. I had what's his name there, Quez. He was getting
So you getting fired up?
Yeah, he was getting fired up.
That was off the.
It's more than just an idea. Okay,
love it. All right, y'all. Appreciate it, everybody.
Thanks, Fred. See you
Have
guys.
a good weekend. See ya.